The military leader, General Hayes, stood with his arms crossed, skeptical. How do we know this isn't a trap? We have our own problems here. The room filled with murmurs as others weighed in. Some believed in the potential for a new alliance, while others feared what the unknown could bring. Dr. Rivers, however, would not back down. If there is a chance we can save lives, we must act. The Zorathians might hold knowledge that could help us too. Her passion ignited a spark of interest in the others. They knew the importance of cooperation, especially in times of crisis. After a heated discussion, the team agreed to send a response. They gathered supplies and prepared a small crew of scientists and soldiers to travel to Zorath. They would leave as soon as possible, taking with them hope and determination. Back on Zorath, the leaders anxiously awaited news. Mira organized gatherings in the city square, encouraging the people to come together. "We must show our strength and unity," she said to the crowd. "Even in the darkest times, we must not lose our spirit." The Zorathians joined hands, singing songs of hope and resilience, lifting their voices to the sky. As days passed, the atmosphere was thick with anticipation. Finally, one morning, a bright light appeared in the sky. It grew larger and larger until it became a ship landing softly in the center of the city. The Zorathians gasped in awe and fear. Could this be the help they had been waiting for? Mira rushed to the front with the other leaders. The ship opened, and a group of humans stepped out. They wore strange uniforms and helmets, but their eyes were filled with kindness. Dr. Rivers was among them, looking around in wonder. The Zorathians felt a mix of excitement and fear, unsure of what to expect. "Greetings," Dr. Rivers called out, raising her hands in peace. "We come in friendship and hope. We heard your call for help, and we are here to assist you." The crowd remained silent, still uncertain. Mira stepped forward, her heart racing. "Thank you for coming. We are in dire need. The plague is killing our people, and we don't know how to stop it." Dr. Rivers nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "We will do everything we can to help. First, we need to learn more about the disease. Can you show us where the sick are?" Mira quickly led the humans to the heart of the city, where the plague had struck hardest. As they walked through the streets, the humans were shocked to see the devastation. The once vibrant city was filled with empty homes and sorrowful faces. Dr. Rivers took notes and asked questions, her scientist's mind racing with ideas. She could sense the urgency, the desperation of the Zorathians. Together, the humans and Zorathians began their work. Dr. Rivers and her team set up a lab, eager to learn about the plague and find a way to save the alien race. The Zorathians watched in hope, believing that together they could overcome the darkness threatening their world. The alliance had begun, and both species felt a glimmer of hope shining through the despair. The journey ahead would be difficult, but they were ready to fight for life, hand in hand. The Zorathians watched with a mix of hope and fear as the humans began to set up their camp. Dr. Emma Rivers and her team worked quickly, unpacking equipment and creating a makeshift laboratory. The Zorathians had never seen such advanced technology before, and it filled them with both awe and curiosity. Mira stood nearby, her heart racing. She was excited to have the humans here, but she also felt nervous. Would they understand the gravity of their situation? Would they really help? She approached Dr. Rivers, who was examining samples from the sick. "Thank you for coming," Mira said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "We are grateful for your help." Dr. Rivers looked up, her face warm with a smile. "We are here to help, and we will do everything we can," she replied. "But we need to work together. We need to learn about your people and your planet." Mira nodded, feeling a sense of relief. She knew that this partnership could be the key to saving her world. As the humans began their work, they asked the Zorathians many questions. They wanted to know about the symptoms of the plague, how it spread, and what they had already tried to do. The Zorathians shared their stories, explaining how the disease had changed their lives. They spoke of friends and family lost to the illness, their voices heavy with sorrow. However, communication was not always easy. The Zorathians spoke in their melodic language, while the humans spoke in sharp, precise tones. At first, misunderstandings happened frequently. A Zorathian might say something that sounded confusing to the humans, causing laughter or frustration. Dr. Rivers noticed this and quickly gathered everyone for a meeting. "Let's find a way to communicate better," she suggested. "We can use drawings, gestures, and even simple words to help each other." The Zorathians agreed, eager to bridge the gap. Together, they started to create a visual dictionary. Mira and Dr. Rivers worked side by side, sketching pictures and learning new words. Laughter filled the air as they tried to mimic each other's sounds. The Zorathians found the humans' accents amusing, while the humans marveled at the beauty of the Zorathian language. Slowly, they began to understand each other better. As days turned into weeks, the partnership between humans and Zorathians grew stronger. The Zorathians showed the humans their culture, sharing music and dance. In return, the humans demonstrated their technology and knowledge, showing how they could analyze samples quickly and accurately. One evening, as the sun set and painted the sky in hues of orange and purple, Mira invited Dr. Rivers to a traditional Zorathian feast. The table was filled with colorful fruits, bright dishes, and strange but delicious flavors. The humans were hesitant at first, unsure if they would like the food. However, with Mira's encouragement, they tried everything. To everyone's surprise, the humans loved the food. They laughed and cheered, their voices mixing with the sounds of Zorathian music. As they feasted, they shared stories of their homes, their families, and their dreams. The barriers between them began to fade, replaced by friendship and understanding. However, not all Zorathians were pleased with this alliance. Some were angry that they had invited humans to their planet. "Why should we trust them?" one elder shouted. "They are outsiders. They could betray us." Tension grew among the Zorathians, and Mira felt a heavy weight on her shoulders. Determined to calm the fears, Mira arranged a meeting with the council. She invited Dr. Rivers to join her, believing that transparency could help ease their concerns. "We are all here for the same reason," she told the council. "We want to save our people. The humans can offer knowledge we do not have." Dr. Rivers spoke passionately about their efforts to find a cure. She explained the steps they were taking and the tests they had conducted. Her sincerity shone through, and gradually the council began to listen. Finally, one elder stood up. "We will give them a chance," he said, looking around the room. "If they fail, we will deal with it then. But if they succeed, we may save our people." With that, the council agreed to continue working with the humans. The partnership was solidified, and the Zorathians felt a glimmer of hope. Together, they were stronger, and together, they would face the darkness threatening their world. With the Zorathians and humans united in their efforts, hope began to bloom in the once somber atmosphere of Zorath. Dr. Emma Rivers and her team worked diligently in the makeshift lab, analyzing samples and conducting experiments. Each day brought new challenges, but they faced them with determination and teamwork. Mira watched as the humans became part of their daily lives. They shared knowledge, laughter, and even struggles. The language barrier had shrunk, and they could communicate better through drawings and gestures. The Zorathians taught the humans about their plants and herbs, many of which held healing properties. In return, the humans explained scientific methods, helping the Zorathians understand how to conduct experiments. One bright morning, as the sun rose over the horizon, Dr. Rivers gathered everyone for a meeting. "Today we will start testing some of the plants you showed us," she said, her voice full of excitement. "If we can find something that helps fight the plague, we might be able to save many lives." The Zorathians nodded eagerly, hope shining in their eyes. They led the humans to a lush garden filled with colorful plants, some of which were native only to Zorath. Mira pointed to a plant with bright blue flowers. "This one is called Luminara," she explained. "It is known to help with sickness, but we have never studied it closely." Dr. Rivers examined the plant carefully, taking notes. "Let's collect some samples and test them right away," she suggested. The humans and Zorathians worked together, gathering leaves, stems, and flowers, excited to see if Luminara could hold the key to a cure. As they returned to the lab, the atmosphere buzzed with energy. The team prepared their equipment and set to work. Dr. Rivers guided the Zorathians through the testing process, showing them how to extract the plant's essence. They all watched closely, eager to see the results. Hours passed as they ran tests, but finally they began to see promising signs. "Look at this!" Dr. Rivers exclaimed, pointing at the screens displaying their findings. "The extracts from Luminara are showing antiviral properties. This could be it!" The Zorathians cheered, their spirits lifted. For the first time in a long while, they felt a glimmer of hope. However, their joy was short-lived. Just as they were celebrating, a loud alarm sounded in the lab. A new report came in. The plague had mutated. The news hit like a thunderstorm. "What does this mean?" one Zorathian asked, fear creeping into his voice. Dr. Rivers frowned, her mind racing. It means we need to act quickly. The current treatments might not work anymore, and we have to adapt. She gathered the team, her voice firm. We need to test Luminara again, but this time we must combine it with other herbs we discovered. Mira felt a rush of determination. Let's gather more samples! We must find a way to fight this! The Zorathians sprang into action, searching their gardens for other plants that might help. The days turned into a blur of hard work and sleepless nights. The humans and Zorathians collaborated tirelessly, sharing ideas and testing new combinations. They experimented with different plants, taking notes and analyzing results. The lab buzzed with energy, filled with laughter and excitement, even amidst the uncertainty. During this time, friendships blossomed. Mira grew close to Dr. Rivers, admiring her passion and dedication. They shared meals, stories, and dreams of a better future. The humans, too, began to see Zorath as their second home, and the Zorathians felt the warmth of camaraderie. But the plague continued to spread, claiming lives every day. The pressure mounted, and with it came stress. One evening, after a particularly long day, Mira sat outside under the stars, feeling defeated. Dr. Rivers joined her, sensing her worries. "We're doing everything we can," she said softly. "I know it's hard, but we must keep believing." Mira looked up at the sky, the stars shining brightly. "I know. I just wish we could do more, faster," she admitted. Dr. Rivers nodded, her heart aching for the Zorathians. "Together we will find a solution. We just need to keep pushing forward." Inspired by their conversation, they returned to the lab with renewed vigor. The next day, they combined Luminara with several other herbs. The results were astonishing. "This is it!" Dr. Rivers shouted, her eyes sparkling. "We've found a mixture that shows strong results against the plague." Cheers erupted in the lab as hope filled the air once again. They had faced many obstacles, but they were united in purpose. Together, they were stronger than they had ever been, ready to fight for the future of Zorath. The sun rose over Zorath, casting golden rays across the landscape. The air was filled with anticipation and hope as Dr. Emma Rivers and her team prepared to test the new mixture they had created from the Luminara plant and several other herbs. The news had spread quickly, and the Zorathians gathered outside the lab, their faces reflecting a mix of excitement and nervousness. Mira stood among her people, her heart racing. She could feel the tension in the air. Today could change everything. As the humans worked, she whispered words of encouragement to those around her. "This is our chance," she said. "If the mixture works, we will save our families and friends." Inside the lab, Dr. Rivers and her team carefully measured the new formula, their hands steady despite the pressure. "This is it, everyone," Dr. Rivers said, her voice firm. "We have worked hard for this moment. Let's make sure we do everything right." The team nodded, their expressions serious. Once the mixture was ready, they prepared to distribute it. The Zorathians had brought in those suffering from the plague, and the atmosphere was filled with a mixture of hope and anxiety. Each sick Zorathian was given a dose of the new treatment, and the team watched closely for any signs of improvement. Hours felt like days as everyone waited. The lab was silent except for the sound of anxious whispers. Finally, a Zorathian named Tarek, who had been gravely ill, began to show signs of recovery. His breathing steadied, and color returned to his cheeks. "I feel better," he said, his voice shaky but full of hope. Cheers erupted in the lab. The Zorathians hugged each other, tears of joy streaming down their faces. Mira rushed to Dr. Rivers, embracing her tightly. "You did it! We did it!" she exclaimed, her heart overflowing with gratitude. Dr. Rivers smiled, her eyes shining with pride. "We all did it together." As news of Tarek's recovery spread, more Zorathians began to come to the lab. Each one received the new treatment, and slowly, many started to show signs of improvement. Hope filled the air like a warm breeze, lifting spirits and strengthening the bonds between the humans and Zorathians. With each passing day, more people recovered. The plague that had once seemed unstoppable was finally retreating. The Zorathians celebrated their newfound health with songs and dances, honoring both their own people and the humans who had come to their aid. Dr. Rivers and her team joined in the celebrations, feeling a sense of belonging in this strange yet beautiful world. Mira showed them the traditional Zorathian dances, and laughter echoed as the humans tried to keep up with the graceful movements. It was a time of joy, a moment to cherish after all the hardships they had faced. However, the reality of the situation reminded them that the battle was not entirely over. There were still many who had fallen ill, and not all had recovered. Mira and Dr. Rivers discussed their next steps. "We need to keep the research going," Dr. Rivers insisted. "We must ensure that the plague doesn't return and that we can protect everyone." Mira agreed. "We should also share our knowledge with other planets. We cannot let this happen to anyone else." Together, they brainstormed ways to create a lasting solution. They decided to form a new council, one that would include both humans and Zorathians, to oversee the health and safety of their people. As they worked on the council's formation, Mira felt a sense of purpose. She realized that this partnership had created something greater than just a cure. It had brought two worlds together, united in a common goal. The challenges they faced had only strengthened their bonds. Finally, the day came for the council's first meeting. Dr. Rivers and Mira stood before a large gathering of Zorathians and humans. "Today marks a new beginning," Dr. Rivers announced, her voice strong. "Together we have overcome the plague. Together we will ensure that our people thrive." The crowd erupted in applause and Mira stepped forward. "This council will help us work together, share knowledge, and support each other," she said passionately. "We are no longer just humans and Zorathians. We are allies and friends." As the meeting continued, ideas flowed freely. They discussed health, education, and even trade between their worlds. The possibilities seemed endless, and excitement buzzed in the air. With each passing day, their friendship grew deeper. The humans learned about Zorathian culture, while the Zorathians embraced human innovations. They celebrated their victories together and supported each other in times of need. As the sun set on Zorath, painting the sky with vibrant colors, Mira looked around at her friends, both human and Zorathian. They had faced darkness together, but now they stood on the brink of a bright future. A new beginning awaited them, filled with promise and hope. Together, they would create a better world, one where no one had to face extinction alone. The bond they formed was unbreakable, and they knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. In a faraway galaxy, the planet Zorath was once filled with life. It was a vibrant world, with green forests, tall mountains, and oceans that sparkled in the sun. The Zorathians, a tall and colorful race with blue skin and bright eyes, lived in harmony with their planet. They celebrated life with festivals, danced under the stars, and cherished their rich culture. But that was before the plague came. The disease appeared suddenly. It started with a few cases in a small village, but it spread quickly like a wildfire. People began to fall ill, suffering from high fevers and terrible coughs. Families watched in horror as their loved ones became weak and frail. The once lively streets of Zorath became silent, filled only with the echoes of despair. The Zorathian leaders called an emergency meeting in the Grand Council Hall. The hall was a beautiful building made of shining crystal, but now it felt cold and empty. The leaders gathered, their faces filled with worry. They spoke in low voices, the weight of their situation heavy on their shoulders. "We cannot let our people die," shouted Joran, the chief of the council. "We need to find a way to save them." But no one had an answer. The healers tried everything they could, using herbs and ancient rituals, but nothing worked. The disease was too strong. One by one, the leaders began to lose hope. They looked around the room, seeing the fear in each other's eyes. Their civilization was on the brink of extinction. Then a young leader named Mira stood up. She had always been a dreamer, someone who believed in the impossible. "What if we ask for help?" she suggested. The room fell silent. "There are stories of humans on a distant planet called Earth. They are known for their strength and creativity. Maybe they can help us." Some leaders shook their heads. "Why would humans care about us?" one said. "They have their own problems." But Mira was determined. "We must try. If we do nothing, we will surely die." Slowly, the others began to see the spark of hope in her words. They knew they had to take a risk. After much discussion, they agreed to send a message to Earth. They worked together to craft a plea for help, explaining their plight and the terrible situation on Zorath. They used advanced technology to send their signal through the stars. As the message traveled across the galaxy, the Zorathians held their breath, praying for a response. Days passed, and the plague continued to take its toll. The streets grew emptier, and the skies turned gray as if mourning the lost lives. The leaders watched helplessly as more families were torn apart. Children cried for their parents, and the elderly whispered stories of better times. But deep within the hearts of the Zorathians, a small flame of hope flickered. They gathered every evening to share stories of their past, reminding each other of their strength and resilience. They spoke of their beautiful forests, the laughter of their children, and the bonds that held them together. Mira often led these gatherings, her voice strong and inspiring. "We will not give up," she declared. "We have reached out for help, and we will fight until the very end." Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the Zorathians received a response. The signal from Earth returned, glowing brightly in the night sky. The leaders gathered once again, their hearts racing. What would the humans say? Would they offer assistance? Or would they turn their backs on a dying race? As the message began to unfold, the Zorathians felt a mix of fear and excitement. They had reached out for help, and now they would find out if hope still existed beyond the stars. As the sun rose on the planet Zorath, a new day began, but the air was thick with worry. The leaders gathered once more in the Grand Council Hall, still haunted by the horrors of the plague. They had sent their message to Earth days ago, but no answer had come. Time was running out, and the disease continued to spread like wildfire. Mira stood at the front of the hall, her bright eyes filled with determination. "We must stay strong," she said to the other leaders. "We have reached out for help. We cannot lose hope now." But deep down, she felt the weight of uncertainty. What if the humans did not care? What if they ignored their plea? Meanwhile, on Earth, a team of scientists and military officials gathered in a large room filled with screens and blinking lights. They had received the strange signal from Zorath, and it caught their attention. Dr. Emma Rivers, a brilliant scientist known for her work in biology, studied the message closely. "This is serious," she said, frowning. "They are asking for our help against a deadly plague. We need to investigate this.